everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining. Welcome to our virtual teacher externship hosted by Elevate Ed AZ and the Center for Future of Arizona. Today's session is hosted by Vanguard, and we have Renee Brown as well as some of her colleagues that I'll have her introduce. So Renee, I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for attending our recruiter panel today. We're excited to be able to share our knowledge and experience with all of you. I want to start by introducing our panelists and have them maybe share a little bit about their HR and recruiting experience. So Jessica Batory, do you want to start?
Happy to help, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica Batory, and I work on our recruiting team at Vanguard, supporting mainly internal hiring and crew development. And I've been here 9 years and spent the majority of my time in HR and talent selection and attraction.
All right, and we have two Jessicas, so Jessica Gilbertson.
Hi, I'm Jessica Gilbertson. Just like Jessica Batory, I also support internal hiring here at Vanguard, and I've been doing that the last like 5-6 years. Before that, I did support external hiring, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
All right, we'll move to Stephanie Scherer.
Hi everybody, I'm Stephanie Scherer. I work on a team at Vanguard that supports our global talent, brand, and recruitment marketing function. So I do media, relationships, and analytics, all surrounding the advertising of our open jobs in the external market. I also run our career site, the application process, and some reputation analysis processes.
All right. Well, my name is Renee Brown, and I'm a senior recruiter here at Vanguard. I've been with Vanguard 21 years and probably about 30 years in the HR experience at other places too. So about 20 years in recruiting. But I'm excited to be able to share some of our knowledge with you. So we were provided some topics, but we definitely want to kind of open it up to whatever questions you might have. But we can start with maybe some of the kind of the topics that were sent to us. So I'll pose a question to the panel and whoever would like to jump in. How has applying for jobs changed in the last 10 years? And how is Vanguard coping with this new virtual environment? Anybody want to start?
I'll take that. That's
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I actually do a lot of speaking on this topic externally with professional organizations and student organizations. In the last 30 years, actually, there's been a really dramatic change in how you apply for a job. So if you think back to the mid 90s, early 90s, you tried to decide, did you print on gray linen paper, white linen paper? Did you fold it? Did you put it in a yellow manila envelope? Did you go crazy and use italics or bold? And today, none of that matters. So all job applications are virtual. As a company, we think about our applicant tracking system as our legal system of record. So every job applicant has to go through that online job application to be considered as a potential worker. Social media has had a huge impact in job application. And one thing I'll probably talk about throughout the questioning today is LinkedIn and how important it is. And just to toss out there, one of the reasons it's so important is many of the applicant tracking systems that house our applications will actually ingest a LinkedIn profile. So it shortens the amount of time it takes to complete a job application for the applicant. So, but social media also provides additional information for the recruiter and the organization that is considering an applicant. And then conversely, an organization's social media channels help a candidate research a company in a way they never have been able to do before. So it's very different today. It can be quicker. I implemented our new career site about 6 years ago, and we went from an online application that could take 45 minutes to one today that can take less than 10 to complete. So big changes, but there's no excuse for saying I'm not good on the internet, I'm not good on the computer. It's a necessary step in the process.
Thank you, Stephanie. That's great. Yeah, Stephanie's got a wealth of knowledge on all this topic. So tell me, Jessica, what's it like internally posting for positions? How does that different?
Yeah, Jessica Battori, feel free to chime in here, but the internal posting process is definitely very different than the external process. So internally, we have like a job board that all of our employees, we call them crew, can access and view all of the open opportunities. At Vanguard, we're all about career development and, getting these crew to their next position. So we often have like a large number of internal openings, but it's similar in that, it's virtual, it's an online job board. Crew, often submit their resumes, they attach that, and there's also 2 targeted like application questions that they must answer in that process. Jessica, feel free to add to that.
No, and I think it's also like when you think about external, internal, like there are similarities. It is very social. We're a very relationship management based organization. So whenever you can grow and foster that network, things like that still do carry over internal, external. Really being able to show your personal brand and what you would bring to that team is still very important, whether you're applying to different opportunities. And in terms of how I think we're doing and internally, I know these are crazy times, but really being able to lean into those relationships and also rely on another, I think has been really valuable for some of our employees.
Yeah, and I think another thing for internally too is networking, right? So being able to really get your big network of Vanguard people around that you know this manager and that manager, and kind of reaching out to them constantly to say, hey, I'd really be interested in the future working with you, that type of thing. So networking is super important, both internally and external candidates. So just reaching out to people, even if you're an external candidate, reaching out on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I've been interested in Vanguard for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit more about it, what it's like to work there, that type of thing. So we really encourage that. So thank you very much for sharing that. So when you're talking with hiring managers for our panelists, what skill sets do you feel there are the most important, and what skill sets do they find really lacking in their candidates?
Trying to think, like internally, when I talk with the hiring managers that I'm working with, a lot of the positions that I'm aligned to have a technical component. But I'm finding that more and more are open to like type of experience, the ability to, learn and have that eagerness to learn. So I think it really depends on how technical the position is. And I think that like when it comes to the application questions, that we do encourage our crew to put a lot of thought in those questions. So I think like if I had to think about like a missed opportunity, it's probably just not knowing enough about the position. It's not doing enough research about, what that specific department offers and, exactly what that position does. So I think that's usually a missed opportunity area.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jessica, externally too, because I do just pretty much external hiring. So that is a definite missed opportunity that we see often, is they don't do their research on the company. They know nothing about the company. They know very little about the job. They applied to 100 million jobs, so they don't even know what the job is that you're talking to them about. So really having that preparation prior to their interview is so important. So really just making sure that you encourage people to really do your research before you even apply, to make sure it's the job you like or the actual company that you want to work for, that type of thing, but also making sure that you understand what they do, what their vision is, their mission statements, all those kind of things, or even their history, because it really shows that you're very interested in that company if you do your research prior to the interview.
Renee, if I can add as well, one of the things I see as a gap with some of the students and job seekers that I coach is that they don't think about how to apply their prior experience if the job is slightly different than what they've done before, when the reality is we leverage behavioral-based questioning. So we're looking for examples of their experience that would be applicable to things like problem solving, time management, good communication skills. And so if they've held a position before, it's how do they practice responding to those kinds of inquiries and using a story from their prior experience. Because many times they have applicable experience, but they may not understand 100% in the lingo of our, let's say, job description or the way we call the work processes internally. So that can be a gap where sometimes they just need a little bit of confidence building to say, you know, you had a time where you were dealing with an unhappy client or customer, even if they were internal to the company they worked for or external, and what are the things that they did to allay that situation.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So can you tell me kind of what basic skills do you feel can be influenced in the schools, early education prior to college?
I'm happy to weigh in there. I think a lot about directly relative to that is what I look for and what hiring leaders look for is learning agility, right? Like who's interested in taking on those challenges and how do you create that platform for them to grow that skill set? So thinking creatively and some of those solutions and problem solving tactics that students are taking on and encouraging them to find and discover those on their own and thinking about deducing not only how they got there, but what they're really passionate about and fueling that passion in the appropriate direction, right? Those are some of the things that at least come to mind when I'm thinking about what we could influence from early on, really energizing. That positive mindset, I think, is critical now more than ever.
To add into what Jessica said is potentially developing the reception of feedback and how to use that to move forward. That is a reality. We have real-time feedback in the organization, and I have a 17 and a 20-year-old. I see that is probably their biggest hurdle, is receiving feedback and knowing what to do with it, whether it's just in personal situations or work situations. And it's always uncomfortable, and they need to know that's okay. But to drive that conversation potentially with that mentor or leader forward to say, okay, I heard you. How do you recommend I proceed? And you know, there's different levels and types of feedback, but that I think is really, really important to develop as early as possible.
Yep, I agree. That's really important. Also, I think also being able to work on a team successfully, right? So not taking over the team, not overshadowing others, encouraging others to really participate in this group project or whatever they're working on, because team orientation is super important at Vanguard and many companies. So I think teamwork is super important too. All right. I think some of the other things that I think of when I'm thinking of, you know, things that you can encourage maybe in school is just really, I think we've gone over quite a bit about the agility to learn, the interest, all that type of thing. Communication skills are super important, right? So in any job, I don't care if it's a job with clients or not, you need to be able to communicate well. You see that a lot in the interview process where it's a little more difficult for some people to communicate well. And I think just basically just really being receptive to feedback, like you said. There's really just working on their, you know, just continually learning. That's important. Taking that feedback, like you said, Stephanie, that's hard for young kids, especially when you have to say, you know, let's try it a different way. But sometimes they just say, well, I'm doing it this way and that's the way I'm doing it. So we need to really encourage them to be open to doing it in a different way and seeing if it works for them. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. So thank you. So can you think of any sources that you can suggest in really helping students kind of explore potential career opportunities?
I think it's extremely helpful to have some sort of mentor, whether that's, you know, informal or formal, somebody that you can go to, share your career aspirations with, you know, in an open environment, somebody that can help guide you and shape some of those skills and kind of bridge some of the gaps that you might have. So immediately, like when I think of a source, I think of a mentor.
And that can be like a school counselor or those type of things too, right? Yeah. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Say that your personal network. So I'm always pushing my kids to tap into my network, to who do we know that works in a field or in a type of company that they have interest in, and can just have a comfortable conversation. Like, what do they like about it? What don't they like about it? What's the hardest part of their day? Those are the types of conversations that can be challenging with someone you've just met or a more formal mentor. But I have also seen it work where we'll look for someone at an organization someone's interested in, find someone with the right title, and message them on LinkedIn to say, hey, I'm a student at the University of Arizona. I'm in this degree program. I see you also graduated, you know, find some kind of connecting point and say, would you be open to 30 minutes where I can talk to you about how you got to where you are today? I think a lot of professionals, I mean, I personally love to do that. I think it's really important. I didn't have that opportunity as often as I would have liked early in my career. And I think it's really helpful for the students to explore, because I think they will find things where they're like, whoa, I could not do that all day. And that's important discovery to happen before they take a job. And inevitably they will take a job where there's parts of it they don't love, but it's important that they hear that other professionals experience that. Like, there are parts of my job I don't love. I don't love the second, third day of the month because I have to do mountains of analysis and reporting, but I love presenting that information to my stakeholders. So it's just, I have to block my calendar. I have to be focused. And that's important for them to understand. It's not all, you know, luncheons and presentations. You have to build up to that.
I think one of the things as you're getting into college, but I think would be good for elementary school or grade school or something, is just a career exploration day, right? Or having someone come and speak in your classrooms about the opportunities in this certain industry or that specific opportunity, whether it's a policeman to someone in a brokerage firm like us. So, having those type of opportunities at an early age, I think will be helpful for them to kind of think, wow, this might be something I want to pursue, and they can kind of gear their classes and their opportunities towards that.
A couple of years ago, I worked with a group in the City of Phoenix Economic Development, and we developed a speakers bureau. It has since sort of waned, but we got representatives from all different kinds of businesses that would talk about what they wanted to be when they grew up and what they are. And so we could tailor that to whatever age, but it's a really interesting way to approach that career, to understand, I thought I was going to be a doctor, and then I took some lab required sciences. And so, I learned that, and then I really learned that I liked behavioral influence. And so I wound up in marketing. So, and that's really interesting to hear. Lots of people had interested that I heard speak through this bureau in fashion, and they wound up in a technology function. But there is some factor that connects it all. And I think that's really important. You don't have to know at a young age or even during your degree program. It's about finding what you have a natural ability for and that drives your passion and fulfillment. And there will be a way for you to channel that professionally.
Yeah. And I think just to add on to that, even in college, right? So Vanguard hires hundreds of people every year in our Scottsdale location. And I'd say probably well over half, maybe 60 or 70% of the people are not finance majors. They may be a liberal arts major, psychology, political science, just all different. And we like that because we can teach the financial piece. We can teach you about investments, but we can't teach you the people skills, right, that are required for our jobs. So we're looking more for personality versus the acumen, because we can teach the acumen. But again, we have a lot of people at Vanguard that said, I would never thought I would ever be in a financial firm, right? So they need to be open to different opportunities, even if they're going in one direction and they're, in high school or college, and they're saying, oh, wow, well, maybe I should look at something else, right? They had this focus on where they wanted to go, but they may need to take another detour and find their passion. So
Renee, I had another thought on that too, is just almost like encouraging the failures, right? Like to Steph and your point, you're not going to love everything you do, and you have to try a few different things to really find that out. And a lot of times too, our hiring leaders, like in those difficult moments when you're declined, when you maybe pursue something and it doesn't work out and you receive that difficult messaging, that's also when leaders really look to you to say, how are you handling that resilience and bouncing back? So I would also think about creating a safe space there.
yeah, and I would say, Jessica, I think you probably seen a lot of people that applied maybe even several times for a job, and they took the feedback, they worked on it, and they got the job. So, it's taking that feedback, working on it, and going, if that's really your passion, to keep on trying. All right, great, thank you. All right, so as far as kind of the culture at Vanguard, what's it like at Vanguard? What's the culture like?
That's a great question, Renee. And I think, Jessica and Stephanie, and you would all agree that the culture has changed over the years significantly. I started about 12 years ago, and I remember it just being very conservative. And I found it difficult at first to, it didn't really allow myself to be true to who I am, but it's evolved. So I feel like now it's a very open environment. We have some great resource groups for crew to be able to tap into. It's a very professional environment. It's very feedback oriented, like we had talked about before. So being able to, hear that feedback, accept it, and, take action on it. That has remained over the years. So those are just some immediate thoughts that have come to mind. Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah, I would share it's very engaging and diverse. Like honestly, Jessica and I are on the same team, and I've been here, I think I shared 9 years, and I think of her as a friend, not a colleague. So really, obviously that's on both of her sides, creating and fostering that relationship, but really taking those relationships. And that's one thing that I enjoy here is your coworkers. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but they really do become your friends and family. Like you spend more time with them often than others. So that's one thing I truly enjoy. I really feel like a sense of belonging, and how it's changed is exactly what I would echo with Jessica. Thinking about starting maybe 2009, 10, and just in almost nearly a decade, just very much more authentic, bring your own self to work, dress for your day, own your day. That autonomy perhaps has been really, I would say, valuable in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that culture at Vanguard, I think all of us have been here so long. We just, it's ingrained in all of us. But we just love working with our coworkers and people that, our jobs are what we're passionate about. And I think that we are allowed to kind of just be ourselves, which is great. And the diversity and inclusion has been huge at Vanguard, especially over the last 5 to 6 years. We have a whole division on that. So, and we encourage everyone to join what we call our CRGs, which is the crew resource groups, which are kind of identities into different ethnic identities normally. But yeah, so it's really been great to really learn about from others in their cultures and all that. So it's been great. I love it here. So, Stephanie, do you have anything to say about Vanguard's culture? You're on mute.
Sorry, I had a complete shutdown.
Happens.
So I would echo what you all have shared. I have such wonderful opportunities from my leaders, and that helps to build a culture where you're willing to take risks and be curious and continue to learn. But culture is, and I don't know, Renee, what was the original question behind?
Just what the culture is like at Vanguard in
Okay.
general.
So, and I think it's important to ask people about that. What is it like to work there? Because every company is not the right fit for everybody. And so to ask people what you appreciate most about the culture. One of the things I appreciate most is Vanguard continues to develop me. And I've had the opportunity to do different certification and post-baccalaureate type work based on the opportunities and the evolution of my practice of work. And that's really important to me, that I don't just do the same job every day for an indefinite period of time.
Thank you. And I know in this industry, in the financial services industry, depending on which company you go to, there are certain certifications, maybe licensing and other things. So can you share some of those things that might be required at Vanguard, or something that you can get once you're there?
I'll share. I work a lot with our trading group. So as you can imagine, there would be advanced designations required that Vanguard and even internally would often support. So that would be financial licensing, Series 7 and 63. That's something that they wouldn't necessarily need coming in the door. Vanguard would help them through that process. But I think if anyone is also interested in the financial sector, you think about the CFP, Certified Financial Planner, CFA, Certified Financial Analyst. And once again, at Vanguard, to Steph's point, we do have professional developed programs, I would say, to help support along the way. But if anyone has those coming out of the gate, you are going to be more competitive in the financial space.
And I also would like to add to that, regardless of your position here at Vanguard, being very client focused, client centered. Even if you are in a position where it's very analytical, your client still, appreciates that strong communication, that relationship, that connection. So that strong client service experience is very important here at Vanguard.
Yeah, and I think externally, all our positions don't require degrees, but we prefer them. So, and the reason we prefer them is because those licenses are not easy to take. So, if we see that you've gone through college and you've done pretty well in college, that we feel very confident that you'll pass those licenses, because they are going to be required for many of our customer service positions. But we do sponsor you for all those licenses. We pay for everything. There's 3 different licenses normally that you would get. One's called an SIE, which is Securities Industries Essentials exam. And you can actually encourage your maybe high school students to look into that, because you can do that without being sponsored by a company, and they're good for 4 years. So the SIE is one. And then once you come to Vanguard, we'll help you through those others, because they are hard. So we have formal training to get you through those licenses and make sure you pass those licenses. But again, whatever job you take on, if it requires an additional license, we will help you with those. So again, it's all about continually growing to get into, a different job. You might need something different. So we'll definitely encourage you to do that. We also, at Vanguard, I'm very proud of this, they actually pay for college. So if you come in without college degree, we will help you through that. So we pay up to $9,000 a year towards your degree. So it's a good way for you to kind of go ahead and start your career, and maybe go part-time, do weekends, online, that type of thing, to get your degree completed. I was one of those late bloomers in the degree piece. So I was in my 40s. So, it's like, okay, do I go back to school? And I did. And it took me like 10 years to get through it, because I was part-time and I had a family and everything. So, but we do encourage you to complete those degrees. All right, thank you. And the last one I kind of wanted to just throw out, and then we'll definitely open it up for some questions, is how important is social media and your social media persona? And I think our expert, Stephanie, could probably give us a whole hour on that.
Yes, I do whole talks on this, but a couple of, and I'm going to focus on LinkedIn because that is the #1 professional social media network. 94% of recruiters recruit on LinkedIn. So that's where some of the initial decision makers and the folks that are sourcing talent are looking. And pre-pandemic, so take this number with a grain of salt, it's obviously changed slightly. There were over 15 million jobs posted on LinkedIn at any given time. So this has become the focal point of job search in our era. But LinkedIn is really important whether or not you are looking for a job. It's also important to build your network, and it's also very important for career development. Even if you are looking for a career, you have professional development and opportunities to learn from experts and public figures in the space that you're interested in. The other factor about social media that's really important to consider is you have a personal brand that is public and always on 24/7. So while LinkedIn may be where you focus your efforts to represent yourself professionally, if on Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you have a completely different persona, that can be a challenge if a potential employer is looking at pictures of you, I don't know, whatever your personal interests are. And it's not a message to say don't do it, but it's to understand what is visible to the public. There are many privacy settings in each of those social media platforms that I mentioned. So, for example, as an HR professional, I have my Facebook account pretty locked down from a privacy perspective. Only my friends that I have enabled to access my postings can see what I'm posting. So I'm not concerned about my employer or prospective employers looking at that. But if it's relevant, if your lifestyle is relevant professionally for consideration, those are all things you have to think about. So another thing that I coach hiring managers on when they're looking for talent is that talent should be using, or candidates should be using, social media to research. And so for many hiring managers, you should be Googling yourself and see what comes up, what images show up, what articles or references to your activities and involvement show up, just simply on Google. And a fun tip is you can set an alert to run daily, weekly, monthly, and it will just show up in your inbox. So that's a good reputation management tool, both for, I use it for Vanguard, but I also use it personally to understand what is an organic result that individuals might find if they look me up. And I know everyone here has other social media experience from all of the different initiatives we've done. So I'll let you guys jump into.
Yeah, I think the other thing that, and I know Stephanie's really involved in this, is also Glassdoor. So I don't know if you've heard of Glassdoor, but it's a great opportunity for you to kind of get to know what people are saying about different companies. So there's good and bad, right, on Glassdoor, but it's something that a lot of candidates look at as far as, if they decide they want to apply. So there's several different ones, and Stephanie might be able to share some others, but I know Glassdoor is a big one where I think the statistic is, and Stephanie can tell us, but I think it's like they look at 16 different opportunities on social media and different things to make a decision whether you even want to apply to a job. So I don't know, Stephanie, do you have some others besides Glassdoor?
Yes. So sorry, hold on.
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm just going to get out of this meeting because it's causing feedback. Okay, now we should be good. There are lots of websites that allow user-generated content, meaning employees to put their experience up in the form of an employee review. So the most famous would be Glassdoor. Indeed also allows reviews. There are diversity-focused review sites as well. So there are female-focused sites like In Her Sites and Fairy God Boss. There's a more broad diversity site called Just Us that is starting. And this is really valuable research, and not job seekers are not the only ones that use these sites, but it's really valuable to understand what do the current employees say or past employees say about their experience there, and is that important to me if I'm the job seeker? Many other people use these sites. Customers will read and say, are the employees happy at Vanguard? Do I want to invest and trust them with my money? The press uses these websites to understand what it's like to work at an organization. And they are also used for investor relations for publicly traded companies. So while it's not a traditional social media platform in the sense of the ability to have an up and back discussion, there is user-generated content there to provide you color and information about what it is like from the actual employees. And I think it's a very, very important part of the research process when someone is interviewing. Really helpful to us. We do a lot of internal analysis on the data available there and try to understand opportunity areas, blind spots, as well as areas where we are doing great and it's a consistent comment. For example, I heard Jessica talk about the feeling like a family. That is probably our number one comment on Glassdoor, that people get to work with other great people. And so that's a big selling point in the interview process and the research, and we can absolutely reinforce that through their candidate experience.
Great, thank you. Jessica, did you have something to say?
I had a quick thought, just from personal experience. One thing that I don't think I did enough early on was also thinking about the organization's mission and objectives. Like with Vanguard, I feel like I just landed here, but you don't realize sometimes the ethics and that foundation and what that creates for the culture. So that's another thing I would make sure to encourage, that you're aligning with their mission and the goals of the broader organization.
Good. Awesome. All right, well, I'll pass it to you, the guests. So please kind of go ahead and unmute if you have any questions that we can answer for you.
Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Jane. Hi, Jane. Okay,
Hi, Jane. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you sure? Okay. So, I am just wondering, because this is just sort of opened my eyes. If a person wanted to apply to you, to Vanguard, would they go out and look on your website? Or because that's, when I've been applying to school districts, I go to their websites, I look to see what they've got, I check them out. I do a lot of research on the school districts that I've applied to. So is it the same thing for Vanguard, that if I were applying to you as like maybe a high school student with an associate's degree, would that be how we'd go about finding you?
Yes, definitely. So you just go to our website, you can find the careers page, and look at the different opportunities that are available. Many companies, including Vanguard, have special sites for students and things like that. So you can kind of go and find out, okay, what the different positions are at different levels in your career. So yes, you would go to the website, take a look at the opportunities that are available, and be able to apply directly to that job once you read through the description and see if your skill set matches up.
So one of the best ways that's sort of industry-wide, so I'll draw it up higher than Vanguard. If you just Google Vanguard jobs, you'll get our career site as a result. So any company, if it's Dish Network jobs, if it's Safeway jobs, you'll get to their career site. But you can also visit a corporate website, and typically either in the top navigation of the website or the bottom footer navigation, there will be the word careers that you can click and link right to their career site, or dedicated careers pages where job listings will exist.
Thank you for the question. Anybody else? Jane, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Hi, so I teach at Pima Community College and in the business department. So we get a lot of students that are looking for internships or even, jobs with their associate's degrees. And one of the things that comes up, I think Stephanie was mentioning this about reputation analysis, things that have been posted on the internet, social media. And some of the students are concerned, well, what if, my potential, employer, or I'm trying for this internship, they Google me and they find something, how do I mitigate that? If there's something negative.
Yeah. So
That's one big thing. Yes.
yeah, part of the management is understanding what's out there and how it might be perceived by a prospective employer. You can adjust your privacy settings on different social channels and your account administration, which I recommend. And just be very careful about what you're putting out there. I mean, I think being able to respond to it in a professional manner if it is inquired about in an application process. So we're in the age of public information, and sometimes we don't always consider all the implications of what we're putting out there. You can take things down, but it's not a guarantee that they haven't been indexed by Google in the images or something like that. So that's the best advice I could give, is to understand what's out there and be able to share some information about why if you're asked about it.
Thank you. And just a follow up to that, for college students, what's your best advice in terms of putting together a student LinkedIn profile?
I would say that it is an introduction to your skills and abilities and interests. So it should not be an exact replication of your resume. It's sort of a summary of what you have to offer. It should have a professional image, because I think it's like 10 times more likely to be found if there's an image associated with the profile. And then also make sure you're active. So if you're going to create a LinkedIn profile, make sure that you are following organizations that you're interested in or that you're a customer of, news and media that you're interested in, and use the platform and interact with other people in your network, share articles, so that you begin to build that virtual network. Even though you may not be actively looking for a job, you might be able to do research with your network for a class. There may be relevant articles that come through that you can use in your coursework. So it's a really valuable opportunity to build it early and to connect and build your network with your fellow classmates and your professors throughout your course of study and major.
Yeah. Vanguard have what they call a talent community. So even if you're not ready to apply, but there's a job that you're interested in, you can actually join our talent community, where it'll actually alert you if something comes up that you are interested in. So definitely would encourage you, as you find a company that you're really interested in, to go ahead and join their maybe talent communities, so that you can kind of get updates from them.
Great, thank you. Does Vanguard have student internships?
We do. Most of our internships, though, we're looking at more of the junior in college, so probably a little bit past that, the community college level. But yes, we do have some summer internships.
And they are posted just like a regular job on a career site. Most companies do that because in our circumstance, particularly, it's a paid internship. So again, we have to go through the full job application process. And what a lot of people don't realize, because I know Renee and I get this question all the time, in like March or April, we get emails saying, hey, can you help my son's friend find an internship? We typically have hired and filled our intern classes by December or January, so for the following summer. So it is something really important as you go into the fall semester for, that rising junior, to say it's not too early to be looking at internships. We post our internship openings by August, before the summer, that it would actually happen.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Anything surprise you, or that is different than you expected?
This is Jen Ravenwood. I really think it's awesome, because you may not realize it, or maybe you do, that it's very female oriented, and that's a nice change, because I started out in 1988 in the finance area in computers and implementation of computer science, and now I'm in education with psychology. And what pushed me away was the male dominated field, because
Yeah.
I just couldn't take it. So it's such a relief to me if I send a young woman with an associate's degree or who's going into college your way, I will be like, yes, that will be a supportive environment for her. She won't feel attacked. She will feel like she can move up the ladder, because I hit a glass ceiling, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what really frustrated me. So thank you. This was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Good. Yes, definitely. We really encourage the women to get into more STEM programs and things like that, because there is a gap there. So we've been really good and really focused on that. So definitely encourage any women to get into those type of programs. And finances is one of those past dominated and still probably a little bit more dominated by males, but we really encourage women to join us.
And
I
think, guys,
agree. And sorry,
Mark-
Steph.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, even when working with some of our more technical groups, like our trader roles and the groups that I fill, it's really just refreshing to see hiring leaders be that inclusive, but also saying, well, do they have the aptitude? How can they take that experience and transfer it to this environment? So it's really great to see that.
And from a marketing lens, there's been a lot of work. I've been with Vanguard for 12 years, and I've seen a lot of the research that it's so important that as an organization, our employee base represents our customer base. And so women are more and more head of households, their own household, a single parent, and they are the investors. And so we don't want one type of representative or employee that doesn't necessarily understand the breadth of our demographics that use our services.
So we do have about 5 minutes left if there are any other questions. If not, I would love to pose a question. So were there any specific experiences in your educational careers, whether K through 12 or post-secondary, that contributed to your career pathways?
I started in recruitment much longer than 12 years ago. I don't know, but I went to school for marketing, and I've been in recruitment now for some time, but I landed in recruitment just by way of my network. Somebody worked at a company, they had an opening, and that's how I got my foot in the door. So yeah, it didn't have anything to do with my major.
Yeah, and I have to agree with that too. I think a lot of people in HR especially just land there eventually. It just circumstances happen, right? So that was my situation. I worked at a credit union and I was in the accounting department, but I really liked working with people, and it's like there was an opening in HR, and so I just stepped into HR, and I've had 3 to 4 decades of HR experience now. I really enjoyed the recruiting piece of it. There's a lot of different opportunities in HR, but I just love recruiting and talking to people and helping them with their careers. So.
I would say for me, my career was shaped by the leaders I reported to throughout. So I ran my own business right out of college. I have a marketing degree, and I liked that, but I really wanted the stimulation and interaction with other people on a daily basis other than my customer. And when I ventured into working for someone else, I landed at a recruiting firm, and that leader just sparked in me the opportunity to try new things, to learn, and to push myself. And throughout my career, the leaders that I've aligned myself with have just offered me great opportunities to grow and develop and use my strengths. So it's less, it took me 15 years to be in a named marketing role, but I was using those skills all along from my degree program. So it was just finding my way and making sure I was in an environment where I felt supported and challenged and stretched.
I would agree, Steph. And for me, it's been having that network of trusted mentors, whether it be teachers from college or even younger than that, that encourage you to say, well, I only meet 2 out of the 5 qualifications, but you know what, go for it. And this is how you have those skills and attributes. So really being able to have that lens to say, no, this is something that you can do, and this is how I can help you get there was really helpful for me, because I would look at the job postings, see all these qualifications, and not post if I didn't have every single thing. So how can you really encourage those who might need that additional encouragement?
And maybe one other question for you guys. What advice would you give to someone who's researching careers? And are there certain things we haven't talked about that you should look for in an employer?
So I'll add on the social media front, there are a couple of commonly accepted practices among talent brand and talent marketing folks like myself. So on social media platforms, we use a handle or the name of our account would be Life at Vanguard or Life at Dell. That's a great way to look for a company's Instagram or Facebook presence and see what they're posting and what they're sharing about their culture and organization. And then on the flip side, we encourage our employees to use a hashtag like #Life at Vanguard. So then you can look at the voice of the actual employees and what they're publishing to social media with that hashtag. So it's an interesting way to look at the content out there and decide what's important or what you want to even ask about in your interview process.
And I think just the mission statement, right, for the company and what their values are, how important community service is for that company, if that's important to you, that type of thing. Just looking at that type of information on the websites, it doesn't always mean that they follow that, to be honest, but I think it's a good indicator that maybe your values fit the values of this company and you would feel comfortable there.
And I'll share something that hit me pretty hard in terms of reality is benefits. Right out of college, I was not looking for benefits. I was looking for sales and the money, but honestly, just finding your way and really understanding what good is in terms of benefits has been huge eye-opening, especially as you think about retirement, life planning, things like that has been paramount for me, especially coming to Vanguard.
I would agree with that, Jessica. When I started at Vanguard, I was not thinking anything about the benefits, but Vanguard is a company that is unique in the package that is offered to us. It's very generous. So as a college student, I think it's important that those conversations are happening and they're talking about, other things than just like the salary, but what about benefits? What about the environment, the culture, the people?
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. I think that's all the time we have today. But again, thank you, Renee, Stephanie, Jessica. We really appreciate your guys' insight. And we'll go ahead and hop off this and let people get to their next sessions. But thank you all so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the questions.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.